So Shashwat, tell me a little bit about your family background, your childhood, how stuff was when you were young.
It was actually, how you call it, like the 90s kid. So it was very simple. As kids we were always the notorious kids in our neighborhood, and the simple schooling, and but what was very inspiring was the family from which I am. I have always seen a good business in my family. Like my grandfather. So when I talk to him, when I know about him, how he struggled and how he traveled from Rajasthan to Chhattisgarh, from Chhattisgarh to Calcutta, and literally how you say, like, when he'd come to Calcutta, he literally had 50 rupees in his pocket at that point of time, right? From there, starting off a business, and so his company is HCCC, in which we were again, further down. At that point of time, I'm talking about 1985. We were doing, but they were making railway bridges and railway tracks for the Indian Railways, and simultaneously, my father also, it's a generational entrepreneurs that we are. So my father also created his own company in which he made, fire alarm systems, moisture meters, breath alcohol analyzers, and all. And so these companies had been in operation. Simultaneously, my uncle also, he started a company in which he's into the mining of bentonite. So I've always seen a lot of responsibilities, a lot of endeavors happening in the house. It was never like a generational wealth that we are all just living on or something there. So everybody has started off something new, and they have done something new, and they are doing something new. So it was never that they were dependent on their forefathers or something that sort. Okay, we are going to be taken care of. Everybody was safeguarded, but also they were entrepreneurs enough to start with something new.
Yeah.
Seeing that, I was never a very top of the line student, but yeah, one thing which I was blessed with was creativity, right? And another thing was I was always an athlete in school. I'm with the activities provided in my school, that is Shashwat Academy. So, that time we had these different clubs, a club for martial arts, a club for scouts, a club for art, music, sports, and so on and so forth. And I was always on the high adrenaline segment. So I'm a martial artist as well. I completed my black belt, and I was also a scout. Simultaneously, throughout school also, I was always, in part, a part of all of these, sports events or social events and all. But somehow, maybe it was just a way of staying away from academics, or maybe it was just my affinity towards these activities which always gravitated me over there. But yeah, so these are the opportunities which I had, and thereafter also, once my school was getting over, all right, because of the as I told you, I was not the top of the line student, so I chose commerce. Although now when I think about it, if I get a chance to travel back to 2004, I would hands down go with science and do something more with illumination, something more with technology. But nevertheless, so after taking a commerce, I completed my schooling, and while my college started, so I was fortunate enough to be visiting my father's factory that time. I used to talk to a lot of people who are doing their own businesses. So that was a time when I had this desire of fusing my skill and my interest somehow. A lot of people used to say, "Okay, Shashwat, what are you trying to do? What are you doing?" So that was that. So that was the point of time when I could feel that my other phase of my life is gonna start. I think that was my college first. Was a time when actually my childhood got over.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that.
So growing up, did you have a lot of friends? Were you like you mentioned, you were a high energy kid. You were you like a party kid? You had a lot of friends.
Oh yes, absolutely. In fact, I was the black sheep of a family in that front, because every time, like, my family would say that, you have so many friends. Literally every day there's a birthday. I have to go here, I have to go there, and I come from a very orthodox family,
Yeah.
and I think I was the lawbreaker of the house, and I would always be the one. So we had a barrier, like, we would all have to be in home for, before 8:30 p.m. I was the one I remember when I would be coming home at 9 o'clock, 9:30, pushing it to 10, 9:45, then 10, and then one day I came at 12. So that is how it was. But yeah, I was always, as I told you, I was a very high adrenaline kid throughout. So yeah, I mean, friends were always there, and activities were always around me. It was never a dull moment.
So, like you mentioned, you grew up watching your parents, your grandparents, and your uncles and other relatives doing business. So, was it clear in your head that you want to do something of your own and want to do a business only and not get into a job?
Frankly speaking, see, job was never on my mind, because maybe because of my grandfather. He was always this thing that we are, in our society, what we are called baniyas, right? Yeah. We are baniyas, and business is in our blood. So job was never on my mind. I would always, I mean, with all due respect to people who are in job, but job was always like the thing that, which was not my thought process also, and not my forte also at the same point of time. And because I've always seen people around me doing business, so business was always on the pinnacle, that I have to do something. But I have to do something, but what? That was that I think that haunted me for a long time. And yeah, so
Since when were you thinking कि यार अब कुछ करते हैं, अब कुछ करते हैं? So it was starting up with.
I think since class 11. So since class 11, I had this thing, okay, school is going to get over, school is going to get over. So I never had this thing that, okay, what am I going to study after after my class 12? It was more about what I'm going to do after class 12. Yeah. So that was somewhere, it was always on my mind.
Yeah. So then how did you finally decide to start Glowz? How did you come?
So what had happened is that when my class, when my class 12 was finishing, or it was nearly around September, October 2005, I'm talking about. That was a time when I was visiting my father's factory also, and I would see these small LEDs being installed inside the the instruments, the moisture meters, charging on, off, status and all that stuff. And for some reason, so those LEDs were from where those LEDs were sourced. That time it was coming from different countries, China, Korea, and all that stuff. So in one of the component procurements, so it was also written that there are some high illumination LEDs also, but those cannot be used for indicative purposes. Yes. Because if you are seeing the LED from the front, that will hit the eye, right? So you cannot use that for indicative purpose. So okay, so this is something which is new. A cluster of those LEDs can be fused and can be made into a lighting source. Yeah. Right. So that was something which was which took my mind, and with of course definitely with the involvement of my father also, because he is an engineer. So that was a time when we actually developed something that sort. I came from a commerce background. I understood the aesthetics part of it, but the electronics part of it was something which I was trying to study. And then we developed some prototypes. We started doing some niche area lightings and all. And when we would talk to our closer associates, closer friends or somebody, I remember back in time, 2006, this lounge by the name of Soho, it had come up in Lansdowne. Yeah. So that was the time when they were looking for some niche area lighting for their holes, for the circular holes in the on the walls. So we said, okay, let's develop something that sort. Small areas. So if you want red, green or blue, you would get that. So that was our first move into it, to provide a RGB lighting with a controller. And simultaneously we did one. So somebody saw it, it said, okay, it can be controlled like that. Even I wanted it. So from one, we did another project, from another project to another project. So yeah, I mean, that is how things grew for me from that.
So your first line was the
yeah, I mean, this is what I would remember. Like, Soho and something similar that time. Somewhere, somebody required some blue light or something. So that was, I think if I actually recollect, my first order was just 2,500-3,000 rupees, something odd. So yeah.
So how did you gain that initial traction? Like how difficult was it to convince someone that an 18-year-old starting a business, you can trust?
It was the most difficult thing ever. It was the fight in the mind. So when I was in Xavier's in college first year, so I would see my friends, they are talking about how to prepare for CA, and they are talking about tuitions. Okay, I'm going to go and join this tuition, or I'm going to buy these books and all. And this is a very good teacher. Hey, why don't you join that teacher as well? And I was like, okay, but my heart does not lie in CA, CFA, CS and all. Like, what do I do? And simultaneously, I had so just to highlight this point. So that time when I actually developed a couple of products, I would initiate it with making calls. Right, I would call up somebody, and so my college was from 6 a.m. to 9:40 a.m. Right, and from there I would go to my office, my old office, which is in Chattanjana Avenue. By 10:30, 10:45, I would reach, and I would start making calls. And frankly speaking, I did not even know that how exactly I'm going to describe it like. So when I would call them up, and now imagine a 17, 18-year-old guy calling you up and saying that, okay, this is this thing, and I would have to meet you for it. And so there were times when I would call up somebody and I would say that, okay, sir, I'm Shashwat, and we deal in these LED-based lighting systems, and there's something new and I would like to talk to you about. So these guys used to correct me on the phone. No, Shashwat, it's not LED, it's called LCD. No, sir, I know what is LCD. LED is something new, which I would like to meet you for. That is what I'm trying to say. So when I would go to them, and oh my God, when you talk about the friction about it, so when I would tell them, okay, this is the product, and I'm going to replace this particular light of yours with this particular product of mine, and the price of that is 2,000 rupees. And then this guy would like, okay, you're replacing a light which is costing me 40 rupees with a light which is going to cost me 2,000 rupees. Am I a fool? Where is the, how do you justify this? So that was happening once, twice, thrice. And, so of course, people, parallelly on the good note also, people were interested also that this is something new. And after my educating to you as a client, even you would Google out something like, okay, this is something like, it's not something like just completely out of my own head. So, but this is something which is coming up, but definitely the technology cost at that point of that time was very high, and still a lot of R&D was being done globally by a lot of companies to fine tune the product.
So you spoke about reaction among you trying to get your first clients, potential first clients, but how was reaction like among your family, friends, colleagues, and relatives?
See, definitely my friends were like, okay, LED, and how come only you are doing it, and how come it is so unique, or how come it is so this thing that only you are doing it and nobody else is doing it? Because the household names for lighting that time was Philips and all, and they were like, how come other companies are not there? How come you're doing it alone? I said, now let's call it like the first mover advantage or the early bird, and probably if I'm doing something wrong, this would not be existing also, right? And I frankly, I don't know why are the bigger companies not going into it. But yeah, there were doubtful scenarios, and from my family, I always got a lot of support. But yes, one underlying pressure was always there that this is something which I have created, and this should not fail.
Yeah.
Right. So there was a lot of running around at that point of time. I would always be like, even for 2,000 rupees of order, I would do a lot of effort. Okay, because I just want a new user, right? I just want that, okay, now 3 people are using it, now 6 people are using it, now I've got 10 customers, now I've got 15 customers. So my endeavors was that more people use this.
So, who supported you? Who kept you going?
My mom. I think my mom was one of the biggest support at that point of time. She had absolute faith on me, and see, one thing I must admit that, it was never a survival thing. that even if I'm not getting that adequate order or adequate profit at that point of time, so it never came on to my livelihood. Otherwise, probably because of the blessings that I got from, because of the family which I come from, if I did not have those blessings, probably it wouldn't have been in place right now. But yeah, my mom was a big support. My dad was a big support. And yeah, I mean, and that point of time, I was also getting some good people also who showed faith, who showed me way. And they were also willing to give me some opportunities also. Okay, Shashwat, let's try this one this way. So that's what we were trying to do.
So what were the struggles that you faced? Like one was getting clients, convincing people. Other struggles that you would have faced in your early days?
One of the biggest struggle was a sustainable and a consistent product, right? So we were developing something and that was failing. So in fact, I'll just share a funny incident with you. So one of this club, so we went over there, we demonstrated our product, and so this purchase person, he said, okay, what is the cost? I said, okay, such and such is the cost. He said, okay, we have one of the small bar. Let's start off from there. And there are about 10 lights over there. You convert those 10 lights. You are seeing that right now I'm using 18 watt over there. And that 18 watt, you can put it, you can bring it down to 9 watt.
Yeah.
So I'm saving straight 50% of my energy consumption. Let's do it. All right. So that was, I think, the first general lighting, an area lighting kind of a project that we had done. So the funny part was because of an inconsistent product. So on a Monday morning we supply the products, and on the same Monday evening we get a call that all your lights have failed. So my whole bar is dark. Now what? I said, okay, I'm just coming back over there. So when I went over there, it was the most horrid environment. It was the most horrid feeling that, okay, in the morning they installed it and today and same day evening it's not functioning. And I was totally zapped. That was the time when I realized that I have to work on my back end before I start pitching for sales. So that was a step back also, but a good experience at the cost, not at the cost of which it had happened, because somebody showed their faith in me. But then, of course, we had to replace the lights free of cost and stuff and all, and put back the older lights. But then I had to take a step back to understand exactly what it has to be done.
So was there ever a point where you where you felt like you did not understand if what you were doing is right or wrong?
Yes. So there were a lot of times when my conviction was at stake a lot of times. I would always have this thing on my mind that maybe I'll, go for my further studies, and I don't know whether I want to really continue with this or not. Because, see, I was liking the fact that I was meeting designers, I was going to sites, I was understanding somebody's requirements, and I was liking that involvement part. But I was always having this underlying fear on my mind that what if something goes wrong? What if I take this project and, again, because of my one bad incident of, by evening the lights were failed. So taking projects became a thing, because I was very, very meticulous about what kind of products I'm putting in over there and what are my promises which I'm giving over there. So, yeah.
So, when you had no idea, when you had these thoughts, you have no idea about what you're doing, what kept you going?
Probably the rebellious thought that I'm not going to fail. If this doesn't work, and if somebody asks me that, okay, what happened to your company? And if I tell them that it did not work out, so just to avoid that situation, I think I kept on going. Rishit, I'll be very honest with you. That kept me alive all the time, just because even thinking that, saying that, okay, I started something and it did not work, it would have probably broken me inside. So I kept on going.
But do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
It is good thing. It is definitely a good thing. See, two things drive a person. Either it's a confirmed financial growth, or it's a confirmed fear. Right? It's either of the two which motivates a person to grow. Right? So I think fear was driving me that time, and because I had started off something, so it was a mixture of self-respect, self-esteem, a bit of ego, and because a lot of people knew that I'm doing something. That's what says my college first year. So even when I had done my project report thesis in my college, I had done it on my own company. So I had presented it so well that that time LED was like, okay, LED, oh, Shashwat Kedia. It was like that. So I think, yeah, I mean, 80% I would say it is good only to have this thing of just keep on going on, because somewhere you need that anchoring, right? Otherwise, what happens is that if you have this thought that, okay, if not this, let me try out something else. Okay. And I was the perfect ingredient to let go of things. Why? Because again, as I told you, it was not a part of my livelihood. It's not that if I don't do this, so I'm going to struggle with my tonight's dinner. It wasn't there. So I think more of the fear about what will I say to people that I did not, I could not succeed. I think that kept me going on.
And did you have a problem managing your studies because you were so focused into building your business?
No, studies was always, I think, actually, with all due respect, study was always secondary for me. I knew that, okay, just one second. Yeah, I knew one thing, that I'm just gonna be passing it, but I know this is the way forward. Because simultaneously that time, one of my biggest booster in this fragile state of mind was around 2007 or 2008. I think it was December 2007, when we got this brilliant opportunity of doing this hotel facade lighting by the name of Chrome. Are you aware about it? So there was this hotel, you must be knowing about it. There was this hotel which is there in AGC, was a flyover, below that. And this whole building was lit up, circular windows around it, and it was all color changing and all. So that was one of the biggest breakthroughs that we got at that point of time. With that kind of a project value and that kind of an exposure, and in the heart of the city, that everybody's seeing it. And my friends were like, oh, Shashwat, that's your project. And my friends would tell to their friends, you see that building, that's done by my friend. So I was getting a very amazing high that time, that, okay, wow, this is what it is, and this is what I want to keep doing. So yeah, I think that kept me alive again.
And how long did that high continue for before you had your...
So yeah, so then that was the time from where I started connecting the dots. So then so when I actually sat down with a more consistent product, and something which I understood that right now is not the time to promote new product. Let's get into the retrofitment product, where you can just open a bulb and put in the LED bulb, something that sort. So that was the time when I understood that, okay, to justify the cost of the product, we need to also look into the ROI. Right? So the ROI can only justify itself only when I'm showing the savings, which at that point of time, we were talking about 60%, 70% savings. At that point of time, we could only justify it if your usage is very high. 12 hours, 18 hours, 24 hours. So the first thing which struck me, okay, Chrome Hotel, let me target more of hotels. Hotels 24/7 in industry. So the hotels that started supporting my cause a lot once they realize, okay, if they can bring down their energy consumption, because they cannot compromise on the aesthetics, they cannot compromise that, if the guests are not there. Imagine a Taj hotel, they cannot keep the lobby one portion in dark just because there are not many visitors at that point of time. They have to keep the lights on, come what may. So those are the places where they started using lighting, LED lights. And not only in Kolkata, we were doing, we were doing projects pan India that time, because somehow there were not many people who had endeavored into it.
So, like, what was the competition that you faced? Like you said, 2006 में किसी को पता नहीं था LED क्या होता है, सब LCD कर रहे थे. And then slowly you were like, why isn't any other big company doing the same work that I'm doing? Then after how long did you start facing competition? And how was competition from the LCD side only? Like,
No. LCD is another thing altogether. It is just because it sounds familiar. It was just one or two cases where people mistook LED to be LCD, but LCD is something else. It's liquid clear display, which is used for the televisions and all. So it's just a terminology that was misunderstood. Otherwise, that time it was a competition between LED as a new technology and the conventional sources of lighting. Conventional sources of lighting as in the CFL, the incandescent bulb, the fluorescent lights, the tube lights and all.
Like we were talking about the competition that you faced.
Yeah, so it was competition between not with a company to company. It was competition between a technology to a technology, right? So imagine today the masses have been using a certain kind of lighting for over 50 years or maybe more. I'm talking about in 2006. So I think the development of the CFL happened around late 90s, right? And prior to that, people have been using incandescent bulbs, the halogens, the CFLs and all. And suddenly, out of the blue, you just bring in a technology, right? So there's a lot of friction naturally. A, the the life of it. B, the cost of it, right? And C, why? If what we are using it is there, we are using it, we don't have a problem. Why should I use something new that you're giving us? So that was one competition which I was consistently facing, and because I had nothing to prove that time, nothing to prove as in there was no track record of the technology itself. Forget me, there was no track record of the technology itself. So yeah, it was very dark times if you see it like that. To prove something, it's like selling Bitcoin at that point of time, right? It was just like that.
And today, how is the competition like?
Oh, now it's more about, yeah, exactly. LEDs have really evolved a lot after that. And I think post 2009, 2010, when there were a lot of government initiatives also regarding different applications. If you remember, I don't know if you remember or not, but then the government was really pushing the initiative of the LED in its institutions. Like I think one of the largest buyer at that point of time, around 2010, 11 onwards, was the Indian Railways, right? And even the municipal corporations, where they were promoting the use of LED street lights and LED based lighting systems to save energy, right? And the government also took the initiative of there was this initiative called Har Ghar Batti, Har Ghar Roshni, something of that sort. So even these bulbs were promoted. I'm talking about again 2012, 13, around that time, where that bulbs are promoted of 9 watt, 7 watt, that at least basic bulb would reach out to people, something which was lasting. Even if you throw it on the ground, it would not break. So it was that durable a product that was being promoted. So the term LED was getting all the attention, right? So that was the time when a lot of companies came into play. Even the bigger companies, when 2006, when I would say that even what Philips doing, Philips doesn't know what LED or what. So that was the time when I was seeing all the bigger companies, a lot of mushroom companies, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of startups coming into it. Okay, LED. So suddenly it was like, okay, this is also LED. Okay, this is also LED. So because for the longest from 2006 till 2010, wherever I would go, I would always check out the lights. What have they put? And somewhere in my mind, Rishit, I knew that the countdown has started, right? Because in my mind, I knew that people are going to convert to LEDs very soon. So if I talk about that segment of time, like 2009, 10, 11 onwards, it was more about the basic forms of LED products. Okay, that you are using a 50 watt product. In place of 50 watt product, this is a more stable product where you can put, right? So that was the LED as a product which came in, and that is the kind of competition which came in that time.
But today, like you mentioned, 2010, 2012, today,
Now,
the market...
Now it's more about technical specifications, and also about the brands, okay, right? So there were times when, there was no brand as such. If it is LED, it is LED. But on today's date, we talk about a lot of things, about the components, about the structuring of the LED, about the kind of LED, about the thermal management, the heat sink, the driver, the basic solder which is there inside, the optics, the fixture, the beam angles, the functionality of the product, and plus now the thing is that there are some brands. When I talk about particular brands, especially overseas brands, so they focus more on some unique functionality of it, right? So there are some brands where, as I showed you right now, like a brand like Forma Lighting, where you can rotate around and zoom in, zoom out the light, and use it for different purposes. There are some brands which is particularly for industrial lighting. There are some brands which is particularly for sports area lighting. There are some brands which is there for commercial lighting or indoor lighting and all. So so on and so forth. So there are various brands which are specializing in terms of either product parameters or application parameters.
Okay. So like you mentioned, there were a lot of companies coming into LED. At that point, how did you differentiate yourself from the rest of
Yeah, definitely. It was a challenging time that time, because as a first mover, a lot of people knew that I understand lighting, right? Company brand is secondary, right? But primarily, it is about the person's involvement in a particular trade, right? Now, just having to say, like, if you know somebody who is a good, who has a good knack for the share market, right? Irrespective, he is from which company, it's about that person, right? So I became that person for the people who knew me as a forerunner in this industry, and for them, I became the go-to guy for illumination and for lighting, right? And again, as I was telling you in the beginning as well, so now I have placed myself in as the more like a designer and more like the doctor of the lighting. Like, for example, in the pharmacy, there are all the medicines are there. But for example, if you have some problem and you want to go and take the medicine, how do you identify that out of those lakhs of medicines, which one do you need? You have to go to a doctor. Who will define you, who will prescribe you, who will diagnose it. That, okay, this is the problem, and for this problem, we need this medicine at this dosage, right? And at this repetition, right? Then you go to the pharmacy and then you buy the light. So this is where we have positioned ourselves, where we are representing a lot of brands after filtering what kind of products they are selling, or what is the kind of application which is there, and also demonstrating and showcasing what those products can do as a performance. And that is the reason for which we have also created this experience center, so that people can understand lighting as more holistically.
Okay. So today, what are the customers that you target, and what kind of customers do you deliver to?
I think everybody are customers. If you are, because lighting is for everyone, right? But primarily, we would always choose to go via the architect or the interior designers, because their perception is very important. Probably if you're making a house, you're making a house. You have some pictures from Pinterest. You have some, some inspirations, or you have some, the 3D pictures of your house. But how it has to be imagined, how it has to be completed is the work of the designer. So we work very closely with the designer to understand, okay, this is the look of this place, right? Probably you know that in a bedroom, we have the, the bed over here, or the side table over there, or something of that sort. But, at what intensity, what has to be lit up, what is going to be on the wall, what is the color of the wall, what is the color of the flooring, what is the texture of the wall. So those things need to be imagined well, along with which the lighting is further understood.
Okay. So what are some big projects that you've done recently that?
So see, as we progressed, we were the first company who did the first LED street lighting work in Orissa, right? And we did the facade lighting for the whole of Howrah station. We did the facade lighting for the whole of Rail Southern in Bhubaneswar. We did the lighting for Taj Farafma Palace. We did the lighting for Taj Mansingh. We did the lighting for Taj Bengal. Alongside with that, we were also doing a lot of lighting for a lot of big houses as well. Including bigger businessmen or bigger business houses like Balrampur Chini or Anmol Biscuits or Anjali Jewelers or whatever. So those are the kind of people who started sowing their trust into us. And alongside with that, when lighting was more and more well understood, and we had more and more types of diverse products, we could outreach bigger projects that time.
So what was your best experience, like out of all the projects that you've done?
See, definitely, my emotions are seated in that total Chrome project which was there, which we had done back in time, because that gave me a major boost in my confidence and in my perception to understand lighting, where the integration of that. I mean, and every day seeing something happening, and then one day you're standing on the road and you see the whole building lit up, and wow, that's yours. So that was one of the biggest inspiration. And then when we did the whole of Howrah station facade lighting, that was another good feeling at that point of time. And and after that, after a point of time, you are doing so much of work that it becomes like a huge cloud in your head that okay, it's all work after all. So, but these are some things which have been on my mind, and that's about it.
So how do you think lighting has evolved over time from way back? Like we were talking about how cavemen would use light, and to today how we use light in our day-to-day activities. How has light evolved?
See, definitely. I mean, I think light earlier it was a subject of just illumination. You just need it for basic visibility, and you would just put anything for that sake. As I was telling you, we would just, you, me, and most of us, we all have grown up with 2, maximum 3 tube lights in one room, right? It would just be installed on 3 different walls, and we would do all our works in that. So, as we call lighting as a human-centric form, so, we have understood, or rather it was well comprehended also, that for every use or every utility or every application of us humans, we have different forms of light now, right? Whether it is, like even the office in which we are sitting right now. So this particular lighting is made in such a way so that you can work consistently and the glare is not onto your head. Now imagine if you are required to work with a big light onto your head, you would not be able to work for more than an hour or maximum 2. That reduces your efficiency also. So that is what.
So, how important do you think lighting is? Like, people think कि एक ट्यूब लाइट लगा लो बहुत है. How do you think that mindset in people is changing?
I see, because people have started understanding the implication of light. So there's a term called lux. Lux is the quantity of light just falling onto a particular surface. So now imagine if I have to do the same work over here, and if I have these 3 walls, and if I just put 3 tube lights, right? So I can. There's a limitation of even the number of tube lights I can put over here, right? If I'm not happy with 1 tube light, probably I'll put 3 of them. But to study or to do a particular work in which you have to read or something, you require at least 200-300 nuts plus, right? How many lights can you put to attain that amount of light? So the luminaires have been designed in such a way so that a more efficient and a more practical form of lighting can be created so that you can fulfill that particular task. So that is how it has evolved majorly in terms of lux levels and in terms of the aesthetics, where this can be balanced with different kind of luminaires.
So, as a business owner, how much stress do you take? How has stress been a part of your career from the very beginning to right now? पहले कितना stress लेना पड़ता था, अभी कितना है?
I think, in fact, personally, I was just talking about this few days back. Definitely, the stress levels have increased because earlier there were very limited projects. There were very few people whom I was in interaction with. But now, when you are doing a B2C, and especially today's times, the number of projects they have manifolded. And when you are placing yourself in an environment of high competition, so definitely other people are also trying to make the similar commitments, similar promises. But out of all those people, where earlier I would have a competition of just 3 or 4 people, right? And now I have a competition of almost like 30 to 40 other companies. So between all of that, when a person is showing trust in you and they place an order onto you, so your responsibility towards the work and towards that person increases a lot. And the stress levels are much high, where the biggest stress is that out of 100 things, you do 99 things, nobody's gonna say come and say that you've done a good job. You're just you're going to just do one thing wrong, and then wow, is this the way? Is this the company? Is this not professional? It comes just in 1 second. Then
So like from 2006 to 2024, you've come a long way. What do you think was the reason you succeeded? Like, if you could point out one reason you succeeded.
what happened is that, as I told you in the beginning, it was more of a thing that I just cannot fail. I mean, it was more of a ego at that point of time. You know how you see yourself, right? At that point of time, it was more of an ego that I cannot fail, right? Which evolved further that to the mindset that I have come such a long way. Definitely, there's no going back, right? Which further evolved into something that, wow, after 18, 19 years, so many people have shown faith in me. I must have done something correct in my life that I am still existing and surviving this company and growing this company, and from starting with a 200 square feet of office space to coming up to almost like 3,500 square feet of experience center, and with another back-end office which is and also from 3 people, 4 people of workforce to 25 people of workforce. I just feel that something must have gone right, or something must be going right, that things have worked well. So these are 3 different mindsets over which I've evolved.
So what do you plan to do with Glowz in the future? What are your future?
See, now, had you asked me this in 2021, I would have been blank. But now, especially after successfully creating this and getting a more global recognition regarding this, I think I am going to proceed with opening more such experience centers so that people can understand different forms of lighting. And I think I would like to go first in various cities in India, and if all works well, my dream is to open one of them somewhere in Italy.
So you started off as a young entrepreneur. What do you think are rewards that you have as a young entrepreneur, the advantages that you have over anybody else?
In today's times?
No, back then and today.
See, back then, being 17, 18 years old, you had the advantage of going wrong, right? And there was not much to lose at that point of time. You have hardly created any goodwill. You could just say, sir, I'm sorry. So that was time when the good people would give you the opportunity also, okay, try it out.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's give it a shot. And a 17, 18-year-old guy, when you are addressing to people as, bhaiya or uncle or something like that, so they already feel this thing that, okay, this kid needs to be, taken care of. Like, okay, if not much, at least they would guide me out or something. So that was one advantage as a young entrepreneur. And and as a young entrepreneur, your energy level is so high that even if you fail 10 times back to back, your energy is sustained. But right now, if you tell me that I'll fail 10 times back to back in the given time, I think I'll just go into an emotional breakdown. So yeah, it's a paradox. But now when I think about as an entrepreneur today, I have jumped over such situations and such scenarios and such hurdles that I think mentally I've become very strong. And earlier I would give in to certain situations where just for the work to happen, I would just say a yes to something, and I would just agree on to some things. And for the example of which I'll give you also. But now I see things more logically. I see things more non-emotionally now.
So how, like you were talking about the mental strength, or how stronger you became mentally after doing business. How important do you think is mental strength for an entrepreneur?
It is. I think that is the biggest strength that you have, because till the time you're not, if you're not being funded by some angel investor or something, it's only your mental strength that keeps you going. Otherwise, we as entrepreneurs, we are so vulnerable to give up. One fine morning, I can just wake up and just think that, come on, I don't want to do this anymore. I am not answerable to anyone, right? I'm not working for my family. I'm not working in my family firm, or I'm not doing a job somewhere. I don't have a boss above me. So I am like a free bird who can just choose, okay, today I'm just going to sit on my branch and not fly today. It's that simple. So the mental strength is very important.
But at the same time, don't you feel the pressure of having, like you said, you have 25 employees. Don't you feel the pressure of having like 25 people's life?
Exactly. Now when you think about it, so as I told you, how my thought has evolved, so many people have shown faith in me over the period of time. And earlier it was, a very, very nice point, a very sensitively being put. For the longest, for me, it was more about, okay, how much sales am I having? Or how many projects have I done? But now, I'm also seeing that how many lives this company can support.
Right.
How many families this company can support. So I think I have also evolved mentally from me being on a personal low, me thinking things to be more personally rather than more qualitatively for the overall company as a whole. Right. So now when people join me, I see more clearly, like, okay, these are the responsibilities of that person, and overall, this is the way everybody has to grow together. For me, as I told you, working with two people back in 2006, 2007. So salary was always like, I'll just pay off something and I'll tell them, okay, do this work, that work. But now I understand that, it's no more about 2 or 3 people, right? It's about the set of people who are showing faith, showing up every day, and they can always choose to, again, just switch over to another company, join somewhere else or something like that sort. But still they choose my company, they choose me, and they turn up every day. That's a very important thing. And when I make promises to my customers, I cannot be everywhere. So it's only, those promises are made only on the basis of the people I have. I know that if I tell them, okay, on a Thursday at 12 o'clock, this work will be done, I know that my guy will be there and that work will be going on, so that I can be conveniently sitting with you and talking about it.
You mentioned the advantages that you had being a young entrepreneur. What are the drawbacks that you face? Like, let's say, for you, it was very clear that you never wanted to do a job. But let's say for someone who doesn't have that mindset, but he still chooses to start a business of his own. Like, do you think once you start up a business, you can not go into doing a job?
No. I'm sorry, I just lost you in between. Can you just repeat your question?
Like, let's say someone starts a business today, but if he fails in making it big and he wants to do a job, do you think he'll be able to do that? Because
No, it is something very personal, I mean, just saying, like, if, till 2012, 13, I'm talking about again, I'm just going back in time. If that time somebody would have told me that, okay, I'm just going to give you, such and such amount of money, and I'm going to locate you somewhere in, probably Hyderabad or Bangalore, and you would be having a life of your own or something, probably I would have given in. All right, so I'll more of the city also, and I'm gonna get this amount of money. I don't have to stress about so many things, and that's all about it. But now if I fail, even the thought of it gives me goosebumps, because if I fail now, I don't even know what I'm gonna do after this. Because with 18, 19 years of doing the same thing, after that point, you don't even know what you do after that. Like, I don't know if have you seen that movie Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah.
So you remember this guy who was almost 80 or something, and then he was released from the prison. He did not even know, like, after getting released from the prison, what he do.
Yeah.
Right. So same thing with me. I have done this in so many variations, so many permutation combinations, that after this, I don't even know how to behave in another environment. If you suddenly put me in a job, I might just screw up big time. Like, that's personally with me. There are kind of people who were doing business and then who took up a job. It can be a very unique situation for other people, right? I know people who had very high paid jobs, or who were doing business, and suddenly something struck them, and then they started their own something and went into agriculture. I know people who had very high paid jobs and all, and suddenly left, and they chose to serve God. I mean, it's it's a very unique situation. It's just a state of the mind, I feel.
So if you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Actually, there are so many advices, but yeah, I think one of the biggest advice that I would give to my younger self is to have patience. That would have been first thing, because I think maximum of my decisions throughout my childhood was fear driven, right? If I that I have to sail through, I have to sail through, I have to sail.
Very impulsive, right?
I was impulsive. I was a very impulsive person. If if a problem would come to me and I would just startle out, like, okay, now what? Like, I have to. I would never take a step back, analyze the situation, and think things more calmly, right? If I was short tempered also at that point of time. If somebody's gone wrong, I would be like, how could it go wrong? How did this? So rather than understanding the situation, understanding the right and wrong, I was a very impulsive person taking very quick decisions.
Yeah.
So at that kind of time, if I think of myself, I used to justify myself that, okay, you need to take quick decisions. Otherwise, you slow down. But now when I think about it, you have to have the right amount of rationale and right amount of ingredients of the thoughts of good and bad also, and the post-analysis of your behavior. The mixture of it, or the good blend of it, it gives you the proper outcome of your behavior and words, what has to be done now.
Good. And one piece of advice for young entrepreneurs who aspire to make it big in life?
See, one thing which is good at today's time, which I do not have at that point of time, is the technology favors you. Earlier, even if I had to write down about my own company, I would think about all the words and stuff and all. Today, you just say to the AI to write you a thesis about something, and you can get a thesis about it. You can get a good introduction for your company and stuff and all. So we have done a lot of things in a very orthodox way. And my biggest advice to the upcoming generation is that use technology, because that is a way forward. And stay consistent.
Do you think the art of delegation is very important?
Oh yes, absolutely. Art of delegation is important, but then delegation is also a very tricky word. You're delegating out of laziness, that okay, please do this work, or you're delegating so that you can maximize your work, or you're delegating because you are hiring those kind of people who are specialized in doing that particular kind of job. That is why you're delegating. So that delegation is very important. Earlier, I'll give in my example. So earlier, what used to happen that if I'm occupied with something and I know that this particular work is important, so I would just tell my guy, you just do it. Although he might not be competent to do that. And at my back of my mind, I know that ultimately I have to do that job, but probably I have just bought a temporary time for myself, thinking that he is making an attempt towards it, and having a wishful thought that he might do it well. At that point of time, the other work which I was doing, I'm trying to complete that. Ultimately, he would come back to me, okay, sir, I am able to do this, or this is what I've done. But when I would see it, I said, I do this all over again. It was like that. So delegation of work is something which even I'm learning till date, frankly. And yeah, it is important, but I feel that it has to be well understood.
But do you think it is difficult to find the right people to?
You have kept your finger on a wound. It is very difficult to find the right people, especially somehow. I don't know. I don't want to blame the city, but I think the quality people, the A1 quality people, they find jobs, they find opportunities outside Calcutta, and then they go. The tier 2 find opportunities again outside Calcutta. Probably even if they get a low pay, they are away from the city. And then what we are left with as
mediocrity.
Is mediocrity. Exactly. So somebody who is promising something, I already discounted, knowing that I'm not gonna get that efficient person. So yeah, I mean the problem over there arises.
So coming to the end of our podcast, we have our last special segment, Finsight Flops, wherein you mentioned 3 to 4 finance-related mistakes that either you've made or you've seen people make, and what would your advice be for others to avoid them?
Um, I think because I was always afraid of numbers, right? I was never that bright in maths and accounts and all. So somehow I overlooked a lot of things which involved figures, right? Trust me, I'll say it from my experience. I was the happiest person when I had when I got the option, when I learned that in school, in your class 11 and 12 you can let go of maths, right? I happily gave it off. I was like, okay, take it away. I don't need it. But then when I was required to do that same permutation, combination, and calculus and integration and this thing, the whole business maths and this thing in college. So that 2 years of syllabus, when I had to do it that 3 months time, that was the time it struck me that you cannot get away from the things which you're designed to learn, right? So don't be afraid of things, and because either you're doing it today in a more comfortable environment, or else you have to do it tomorrow in a very stressful environment. So it's always better to get there, do the difficult work, and yes, when it comes to the finance part, get your numbers straight, right? For the longest, I would never calculate my cost. I was thinking that, okay, very frankly speaking, because at one point of time, I was kind of having a monopoly business. So my margins were like, whatever I want, I can just charge anything. So I would never really concerned about the costings part of it. But now I have to really understand my operating expenses. I have to understand my fixed expenses. I have to understand what are the margins that I'm normally working on, and wherever I can find benefit in terms of, some rebates or some discount, something, I'm working on those grounds. Earlier, I would never really pay heed to, 3%, 5%, 7% here and there. But I was always very, casual about it. But I think financially, you should be very strong about your accounts, about your investments. And yeah, that's about it.
And in personal finance, what are some mistakes that...
Personal finance, I think some of the biggest mistakes which I made was that I never started off with a proper savings account or something. I never really got into the thought of doing some SIPs or doing some investments or something like that sort. It was as if, okay, this is my bank account and I'm getting my payments, and my payments and all my money stepped over here. And I'm, for example, it was more about how you play a game of Monopoly, right?
Yeah.
So you're playing, you're rolling your dice, or the things are going on, and you have your money in one place. So I never really understood how to diversify your money, right? So that is something which I understood gradually over the period of time. I spoke to some financial advisors. I spoke to my bankers. So they gave me some insights. Okay, this is how you can diversify your money. So that's how I do on that front.